Hey parents, you will see in your child's binder today that they are coming home with two stapled packets. And one is a group of assessments that we've done since kind of November. We do every few weeks to check in on their letter sound understandings. And they're oral assessments, so I'll say write the letter or letters that make the qu sound, and they should know to write the QU. Or I'll say a word. I'll say write the word tells using what we know about bonus letters and suffixes. So we've studied these as a class as a whole every morning, and by and large, most of the class is doing very, very well. But your child is having a little bit of trouble with it. Now, it could be a couple of different reasons. Um, One reason is that we do it every morning, and some of them are just not morning people. And so they're a little bit grumpy and they don't really want to participate. So the lack of participation is starting to translate into a lack of understanding, and that's something that we don't want. Um, what I do want you to know is that just because these are not looking great, and you'll see the grades circled up here, in progress means that they're getting there, but they're not where they should be in first grade right now after what we've studied. And a DNM is a does not meet, and that means that they are just not even close to showing the understandings that they should know by this point. Now, these are like one-day assessments. There are 2 or 3 of them in your pack. And it'll show you kind of what they're struggling with. And when I went through and I looked at the data over the weekend, I realized, this is something that they're not growing into. This is a continuing problem. And so we've got homework for them that will help. The sad thing is we don't want to see these grades, but the great thing is these kids are bright. They are capable of doing hard things and learning this stuff, and I know exactly what to do to help them, and you're going to be able to help them at home too. So we'll work together as a team to get them where they need to be. All right. I said all that in the middle. I didn't show you what's on the back. You'll see that there are sounds on one side. There are words on the other side, and they'll have like stars or circles or scoops or underlines. Those are called markings. And on the back, you'll see why. On the back of each page, there are 2 sentences. And within the 2 sentences, there's a combination of 5 trick words, which are basically sight words, words that don't look like they sound and are spelled differently and follow different spelling patterns than what we normally see. And then there are 5 words that we call tappable words. So they follow all the rules, and they should be able to say the sounds and get those correct. So this child has the word who, which is a trick word, WHO with a check. They got that one correct, but the next word was said, and they spelled it SEID. So that's incorrect. So you'll see the incorrect ones. I'll write it correctly up above and underline it. Things that have a check are correct. This one was supposed to be where, but they wrote were. They missed the H, so that one's an incorrect trick word. And down here, you'll see the grading guide. So on the front, sounds, 5 out of 5. Words, 5 out of 5. That's from this other side. And then marking is where we mark up the sounds. And so they know what that is. If you're curious, I can give you a one-on-one tutorial on that, but we practice that every day. A lot of them just didn't do it because they were either behind or distracted or refused to, because I reminded them several times. They know how. Over here in the sentences, the words section are words that they can tap, the tappable words that follow patterns like kids, chips, dip, tan, socks. Those are words that you can tap out, and they follow spelling patterns that we know. And trick words are like those sight words, who, said, where, your, are. Those are the ones on this one. So that's how you read that packet. The next packet you'll see is a homework packet, and you'll get one of these every week or 2. And all you need to do is at the beginning of your child's homework or reading homework time is go over these words, phrases, and texts that are in this packet. If you feel a resistance because it seems like an overwhelming amount, especially at the beginning of the week, you can kind of break it up, but you need to do some of these every night. So on the very front, you'll see nonsense words. And I know nonsense words are like, why do we need to read those? Those aren't even real words. This is a waste of time. I get it. I felt that way before I understood. What nonsense words do are they follow all of the spelling patterns that we already know, and it gets your child to be a true word reader. What I'm seeing is that a lot of children who are very bright, great thinkers, that are a little bit lower on the reading scale, it's because they can use their context clues and they can use the pictures to figure out words, and they don't have to attack the words and figure them out. So they'll use the picture to see what makes sense, or the words around it to see what would make sense, and they're guessing at words instead of reading them. Nonsense words take out all of the extra clues, and they force us to use the reading skills that we've learned and to sharpen the reading skills that we haven't perfected yet. So nonsense words are one of the most important things that your child can do each night so that they see each sound and they can put it together. So this first one is Z-U-P-S, Z-U-P-S, zups. And that's exactly how I want them to say it. They don't have to spell it, but if they don't know it right away, if they can't read it very quickly, then I want them to say all the sounds. W-E-G-Z, wegs. B-A-P-S, baps. Now what happens if your kid says B-A-P-S? Well, it doesn't have a tricky E or a vowel team to help it say that long A sound. So you would say, hold on, what does that A say? Should it say a long A sound, or should that be a short vowel A? B-A-P-S, baps. So you can correct them by asking them questions. Wait a minute, does that sound correct? What would make that A say its name? Oh, it doesn't have anything. Okay, so it wouldn't. It would say a short vowel sound. And that's how you can kind of help them instead of just telling them the words. Telling them these words is not going to teach them to read them, but helping them think critically about how do I say those words is exactly right. Okay, so on the first page, you'll see the nonsense words. On the back of that, or on the next page, you'll see a list that looks similar, but these are trick words. Now, trick words, again, are like those sight words. If you want your child to have writing practice at home, these are the words that you have them write. I have, with my own child, done, like, she's got energy for days. I know if you've met her, you know. I'll give her a word, and I'll show it to her, and then I'll send her with a piece of chalk and have her run to the end of the driveway, yell out the word and spell it as she's writing it, and then run back and I'll time her. And it is a fun game that she loves. Now, your child may not have that kind of energy, or you may not have sidewalk chalk. Anything you want to do to practice spelling and reading these words is a great use of your time, as long as your child's loving it. If it's a struggle, do the reading part of it. And if they get to a word that they're having trouble with, I know could is definitely a word that could be tricky this time. We look for the patterns that we know, and we say, okay, we're not sure, code, code, and they're saying things that are around it but not close. You can break it up. Could. What's tricky about this word? Yeah, OU usually says ow, but in this one it says and you can't hear the L. And you can talk about what makes it tricky and then empower them by saying, and now you know, and you're not going to get tricked anymore. So let's try it again. Could. Now, find other words in this list that use that same O-U-L-D, would sound. And they might find should. There's could again, and would. These are words that we've discussed as a class and gone over in the mornings many times. And so once you're continuing to talk to them about that and you're recognizing, okay, we know trick words don't follow regular rules. We're going to have to remember that these are different. And we call them heart words because we have to know them by heart. And what we need to know by heart in this one is that the O-U-L-D says would sometimes. Same for some. It looks like some or same is what kids will say. But we need to know the tricky part about this word is that that E doesn't tell the O to say its name. The O says a short vowel U sound. So that word is some, and we won't be tricked by it anymore. What other words on this page make that same pattern? Can you find any? Oh, I see the word come. O-M-E still has that U sound. So those are the ways that you kind of talk to your child. Okay, trick words and nonsense words I spend a lot of time on because they're so important, and those need to be done every day, no matter what. The next page you'll see is a phrasing page. This is going to help your child be a fluent reader, to read more like a storyteller instead of a robot. So each of these are phrases that you can say, you can read independently, and then you can group them together. So they could read the sentence or the phrase could act up. And they may need to break those apart and stretch them out or sound them out. But once they know could act up, we know that we can group these. So you would have them read it again and swoop their finger under it and say, could act up. So that would be a good way to do it. Let's see this one. Between the drums. That might be the first way they say it, and that's fine because they're figuring it out. But then once they've said it, they're not done because we're practicing our storyteller or our actor and actress voice. That's what I call it. And read like an actor, read like an actress. Between the drums. That sounds good and strong. So phrasing, there are 2 pages, a front and a back, or a front and the next page. You don't have to do both pages every night, maybe one night, one the other. Or if they're loving it and they're doing great and you're encouraging them the whole time, keep it going. And finally, you've got a passage that is on grade level. This is what they should be able to read right now in 1st grade. It may be rough the first night or 2. I've gone over it with them, and I will go over it with them each Monday. But you'll want them to read, and these are words like silk gave them trouble when I handed it to them. Another is a trick word that they may not have remembered, but you'll want them to read the best they can. You can help them with it and help them practice that phrasing. So instead of Mom said, Jess, you have, in that way. They can read it that way the first night, and then the next night you can say, all right, let's try to read like an actress or an actor. Mom said, take a breath at the comma, Jess, you have to get a dress at the shop. And so you can practice with that fluency. Repeated readings of the same passage without pictures really reinforces decoding those words, and it enforces reading them fluently. All right, if you have any questions, please message me and let me know, and I'll be happy to help you with any of it. But I know that this homework is exactly what they need to help them succeed, and I want to support you in anything that I can as I'm helping support and give them a more intense focus at school too. Thank you so much.